Real quick, I've had a lot of people commenting on my last video about union, talking about how they have struggled with the time issue and feeling like there's not enough time or they're running out of time to have with their twin flame, and also, of course, for women worrying about having children because a lot of women want to have children and they haven't yet, or they want to have children with their twin and they haven't, and they don't know if they'll be able to, and stuff like that. And keep in mind, and I'm sorry that this might be triggering for some women who can't have children, and I'm sorry for that. But I also can't not record it. But understand too, like, even if there is something going on for you physically that you can't, that doesn't mean that you won't have children with your twin either. Like, I mean, you obviously would both have to make a conscious effort to be able to, because you would have to either figure out how to make it happen physically or look into other options. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't mean that you can't ever have children with your twin. But anyway, so I just wanted to highlight a couple things real quick here. I know I talked about it in the union talk already, about how aging is going to slow down, lifespans are going to extend. And someone else mentioned in the comments from her conversation with a shaman over the weekend. Kind of funny that we had the same. She had the conversation over the weekend, and that's also when I recorded. But they had talked about how fertility periods for women will expand also. Sometimes I question how much I want to say personally from my personal stuff, because I don't know if my twin watches these and I don't want to trigger him. But this is a touchy subject for us too, because he is very vocal about not wanting more. And I obviously decided to talk about my personal experience too, because I wanted to tell you guys how Spirit told me in a meditation not that long ago that I will be fertile till I'm 60. I was like, oh Lordy. Not that I'm going to have a million babies, but still though, another 20 years of fertility and another 20 years of, being careful can be considered daunting. But anyway, I'm laughing because of what my twin says about it. And, I have to say, it's a tough subject for us, because he knows that I have said in the past that I wanted to have his child. And if you watched my personal story about our first year of spiritual warfare, then you know that the karmic in our case basically stole one of our soul children to come into the world through her instead of through me. Like, she was supposed to be born through me. Instead, the karmic did black magic to force her into the world through her. And so that's also a touchy subject for me, because it is something that I'm very emotional about, even though I managed to control my emotions when I'm recording. But on my own, if I think about it, I could burst into tears at any time because it is very painful. So yeah, it is a touchy subject for me. I have to say that in more recent years, when I have seen my best friend, taking care of her new baby, who of course I'm close with too. And I've babysat for her for a few times. And I think to myself, how would I, now that I'm, have a very busy spiritual healer practice, reading and healing and all that, I think to myself, how would we manage? Maybe it's for the best. And my daughter is just turned 14. It's been a long time since I had a baby. So, I can see that perspective of it's okay. And part of me does feel like I would be okay without having more. Yet at the same time, Spirit has told me that we will have. And Spirit has told me that our son is meant to be in the world, is meant to come into the world and help with the ascension process. I even had one of the very first, my high priestess, who I refer to in my personal story. She saw a vision right away in the very beginning of our son as an adult speaking in front of a group of people. And she's, just one of many advisors who have mentioned him to me. So it's tough for me because I have that awareness from spirit, from my own readings and advisors, that there is a child who is meant to come into the world. At least one. I don't know about more than one, and best not to ask. So yeah, that puts me in a tough spot when he brings that up. He's talked about getting a vasectomy. I have a healer friend who's talked about how she got her tubes tied and she still conceived twice. And that's a whole nother long story. Honestly, I could go on forever about her story, but she was supposed to conceive twice as well. Like, her path is also meant to teach lessons in the world, because her first daughter, her first miracle child, conceived with tubes tied, ended up dying of SIDS at 5 months, and legitimate SIDS too, because she doesn't vaccinate or anything, so it could not have been a reaction to something. And then she conceived again 3 months later after her first baby died. It wasn't her first baby, but the first miracle baby. And she was shown while she was pregnant, although I don't know what she thinks now. I think there's been some changes in the guidance that she's received, but she was shown that her first daughter, it's either the soul returning and meant to prove reincarnation, or her first daughter guided the soul coming in and sensed the soul coming in, the second soul. So basically she was supposed to conceive both times, and there is some type of, she may not even have a full understanding of it yet, but there is some type of lesson or message or whatever for the world about what happened there. And it really will take until her second daughter is older to see what she ends up saying. She definitely knows the first soul because she reacts to her pictures. So anyway, I don't want to run out of time, so I want to move on. But my point is that it doesn't matter if you get a vasectomy or your tubes tied. If a child is meant to come into the world, if a soul is meant to come into the world, they will. And with my twin, I'm just kind of going with I'm okay if we don't, although I won't get an abortion. But I'm okay if we don't. But if we conceive because we're supposed to, because Spirit said so, then that's coming. And part of me does want, at the same time as I'm a little bit afraid of how will we handle it, part of me does want our son because I know about him and I've been told about him. So we'll see. But yeah, I laughed when Spirit said, "You have 20 more years." I'm like, oh God. Like, he's not going to be able to handle that. I'm like, I'm afraid he won't touch me for 20 years. But anyway. So what I wanted to talk about with this is that, there is a whole, I want to do a whole video or video series as well about spirit babies and everything that I have learned about them. Such as I've learned that with abortions, a soul doesn't even come in because they know that you're going to abort. And with miscarriages, the soul usually returns to you at a later time, or miscarriages or stillbirths. So lots of things to understand about this. But I wanted to tell you guys, for one thing, the first point was don't worry. You do have time. Twin flames especially are meant to have children because they're bringing in the crystalline children who are meant to help the world. Fertility is being extended just like aging is being extended as we work through this ascension process. But this is a quote from my first twin spirit baby reading that I did for someone the other day. And I didn't even know this. I actually wondered about it. So this sentence was very enlightening for me as well. And this is direct quote from this client's future children, from their souls to her during my spirit baby reading. And they said, "We have to read the zodiac and come at the exact right time." I did not know that they do that. So that is really cool to understand. So just keep that in mind. You have spirit babies. If you are meant to have children, you have spirit babies around you, and they are planning exactly when they are meant to come, okay? There might be some mishaps here and there, which is what happens with miscarriages and stillbirths. Like, they start to come and then they change their mind and they leave and come back later. But for the most part, they are reading the zodiac and making sure that they're coming at the exact right time for them and their soul paths in your lives. So try not to stress about it and just trust Spirit and the process with your children, your future children also.